Okay, so the first principle, and this is, of course, self-explanatory. Reading and writing are inherently connected and should not be taught separately. That is the basis for the course. ARC stands for Aligned Reading and Composition. So the course in and of itself is a 6-credit course. So it is designed to handle reading instruction and composition instruction. The two are connected in this course. All right, so what does that look like? Well, the course focuses on the process of reading and writing. I think in order to get the best or the most out of the class, early on, we should start out by teaching or introducing students to the reading and writing as a process. And once, we kind of introduce those tools, that'll help students, as long as we implement them consistently, I'll say it's a little bit more conducive for learning to take place. So a clear focus on the process of reading and writing is important in the course, and also introducing those tools that'll help students to answer questions. What is the author saying? And what am I trying to say? So that's that reading and writing component. They both are held um, with equal importance in this course. It says use the reading and writing diagnostic exercise to assess what reading and writing skills to target. So if you guys haven't done so as of yet, make sure you're reviewing the learning outcomes for the course. And with that, sometimes it gets a little daunting, a little bit overwhelming, but I utilize the reading and writing diagnostic at the beginning of the semester to really help me zero in on what my particular students need. And once I get that information, then it helps me to better plan, what I call my mode of attack, right? To kind of help students overcome that. So planning is really important in the art course. Being intentional is really important in the art course, but also utilizing the feedback from your assessment, especially that day 1/week 1 diagnostic. Don't wait to review that. Don't wait to take a look at it. Pretty much as soon as students turn it in, begin the process of identifying areas of weakness and beginning to plan to meet that need, with your students. So it says teach the process and help students create meaning. That is, of course, our primary goal. What I do, and this is just something I threw here to add to best practices, include the use of reading and writing strategies. So rather than me just tell students what to do, what I attempt to do early on in the semester is outline the strategies on which the course will be based. So I kind of gave here a couple of examples that you guys can pull from. I know we have a mix of reading instructors and composition instructors. So some of you, let's say for instance, those who are the reading instructors, you may be familiar with reading strategies and how to teach those reading strategies. But the composition and the instructor who has a background in composition may not really know where to go in order to find those reading strategies. So I gave a couple of examples here, whether you're using script, the ARC handbook itself outlines the SQ3R approach, the 5 writing step process. All of that is really important. In terms of the SQ3R, let me just say, so that will entail summarizing, questioning, review, reinterpret. I know I'm messing those up. And reflection, right? So as long as you kind of set up a strategy with your students and be consistent with teaching that strategy, holding them to account to that strategy, it tends to, solidify the learning. With this particular course, you will find that you are coming in contact with students of varying levels. The English 96 course in and of itself replaces our previous developmental courses, which was English 98, English 100, reading 99, and reading 125. So this one course really covers four courses, four of our previous Dev Ed courses. So you will have some students who will be on the lower end, and you'll have some who will be on the higher end of the spectrum. And again, this is where the diagnostic is really important. But you really want to be mindful that you may have some students who are um, on some scale functioning illiterate. So you may feel like you may not need to start at the basics, but again, that diagnostic will really help to inform you of where your students are as a whole and where you should begin. But I definitely want to emphasize best practices start early in introducing the strategies that you plan to teach and hold your students to account, and constantly reinforce that. Okay. All right, let me go ahead and move on. All right, what I did here is I'm giving just an example of what I may utilize in the class. This was passed on from Mitchell, one of our ARC instructors. We struggled with annotation in the remote learning classroom. Originally, annotation is a very important component of the ARC course. But as we shifted to remote learning, we kind of fail or lost the intensity of teaching annotation because it kind of became harder to collect it, became harder to grade it. So we've been introduced to a electronic way of annotating, for students to annotate, and also for us to score and review their annotation. So I will share this presentation with you all. What you'll see in this box, which I won't take the time to play right now. I'll let you guys kind of play it on at your leisure. It's a short video, maybe 2 minutes, about utilizing this extension in Google that allows you and your students to actively annotate digital text, which for most part is what our students will be reading. Um, and that way you are able to assess them, you're able to grade them, and you're able to kind of see how they interact with the text. So you get an opportunity to assess whatever reading strategies you have in place, reinforce it through feedback. So annotation is really important, not just with reading, but also with writing. I know in assigning low stakes activities for students, normally it will always include an annotation activity. And with the annotation activity, it goes through several steps. Not only does the student go through previewing, kind of making predictions, drawing conclusions, and walking themselves through the reading of the text, they also use those annotations to kind of generate ideas for any response writing to the text. So I walk students through the importance of annotation in both reading and writing, and also in their college careers. It's something that they'll use not only in the English 96 course, but also in other disciplines as well. So it is an important tool. One that, again, when we made the transition to remote learning, some of us left it behind. I'll raise my hand. I didn't require it as much as when we were face to face, but definitely with this video, you guys will have an opportunity to take a look at. I'll have an opportunity to present that to my students. Another way that you can kind of incorporate this integration, right, kind of teaching the strategies, could be through use of peer reviews. Also the discussion board tool on Brightspace, where students have an opportunity to kind of synthesize what they've learned about both reading and writing. So again, those are some things to consider. As far as annotation, just for those of you who are in the room right now and who have taught ARC recently in the remote learning forum, is there anything that you guys have used in terms of annotation that works for you? I just kind of wanted to float it out there. Oh. All right, like another thing I wanted to add too, I also walked through the students through loading CAM scanner to their phone. This is a free app, Android and at the Apple store, that they can download. CAM scanner. It's a scanner that they can add to their camera. So sometimes they'll take a picture of their annotation. I know I do have some students who they prefer to read the actual text. They prefer the concrete text in their hands. So again, anytime I'm assigning an assignment where annotation is the expectation, I give them, they have the option of scanning that document and submitting it as well. So several ways of getting this done. This was just one way that I think you guys will find very useful. All right, and again, when I share this presentation with you in this box here is a video that walks you through the steps of adding this annotation tool to your computers.
Hey everyone, this is Mitch Goins, fellow art teacher. I've been doing a little research about ways that I can help my students annotate their text.
Oh, I'm sorry, I started. Sorry, you guys. I thought Mitchell was talking. Okay, that's my bad. All right, so the second principle, and again, this all pulls from our guiding principles, is developing readers and writers benefit from instruction that is scaffolded. I'm going to pause just a second because Joseph, I think I saw a chat blowing up.
No. It's really not relevant to
Okay,
this
okay, I'm
conversation.
sorry. Okay, that's my
It was
bad.
me.
Okay, so another technique with the remote learning classroom is scaffolded learning, right? And again, where we spoke about making the expectations clear and consistent very early on in the course. We also want to consider how we present, information in the class. By presenting information in incremental, small pieces, we're able to build the learning, scaffold the learning, help students to kind of create that meaning that we're working with them on, and also, again, helps them to get the most out of the course. So let's look at a couple of examples with this. With scaffolded learning, so you guys see how we just talked about the reading strategies. I'll use that again as an example. So normally first weeks 1, 2, 3, I normally introduce the reading strategies. And in doing so, we will start breaking down the parts of the reading strategy piece by piece. So I may include a assignment that will deal with previewing only. Tell me what you learned in terms of your previewing questions to answer. And then from there, we'll move on to the next. And by scaffolding or breaking it down into these small increments, it's kind of building on the previous lessons. It highlights, again, how reading and writing skills overlap. I'm able to reinforce support, so kind of constantly checking to make sure that, learning has been met. And it also allows us to synthesize all of the ideas into one coherent, complex activity, which is normally culminates with a paper assignment, quiz, or some type of summative assessment. So again, just to refresh or remind you all about the importance of scaffolded learning, be mindful with some of the students that not only are they of varying levels. They also, in some cases, have little internet experience. They also sometimes have very little college skills. So sometimes they may need help, but they may not ask for it. Sometimes they may not be aware of what support is available to them. Sometimes they may just suffer in silence. So it is through the process of scaffolding learning, doing incremental assignments, kind of bite-sized assignments at a time, you're able to determine what a student doesn't understand before, let's say, midterm, or before we get too far into the semester. And in real time, you can kind of address those needs. If more time is needed to work on it, or to perhaps present it a different way, you'll have that. So again, another benefit of scaffolding learning is you're able to reinforce that support to your students.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean
Go
to
ahead,
interject,
Joseph.
Aletha, but let me just read. So Laurel Folia writes, I don't teach at CCC yet, but at other schools, I have started annotation exercises with a visual image rather than with a text.
Okay.
I find that some students are far more comfortable describing what they see or don't understand in an image. I then make connections between how they interpret an image and how they can interpret a written text. So that's a great observation, not a question, but an insight. And then Sarah follows up with, I would suggest also walking students through how to upload files to Brightspace in the first week of school. Yeah.
Okay, very good comments. I really like what you
Yeah.
said, Laurel, about the visual component. I had not thought about that before, and I do know some learners are visual learners. I think that's a great idea.
Mm.
I may look up examples of what this looks like and share it with the departments. I'm kind of jot that down. Sarah, yes, absolutely. Keep in mind, sometimes I think what we tend to forget is that these are sometimes some students who have no experience with the college classroom. So early on, I try to lay out the expectation, but also, like Sarah mentioned as well, walk them through everything. Everything that I require that they do, I normally walk them through it first, even down to the basic of email. So normally there's an email assignment, you know, for them as well. So
And
just,
so,
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. No, I'm sorry. Please finish.
No, go
Are
ahead,
you
Joseph. I'm okay.
sure? I'm so sorry. And then Morgan reverberates Sarah's insight. She writes, yes, whether we want to or not, we now need to be computer literacy teachers too. Yeah. And it's not like Brightspace is just something people know, in quotation marks. Sarah then responds, teach them how to name their files too. Otherwise, they'll have a million untitled folders and won't be able to find their drafts when they need them.
Yeah, so I know some of you are thinking, what, right? But it's really important that we just don't take for granted, especially keeping in mind that some students finished their senior years remote learning. It's kind of a disconnect in some way. So a really large component also of the art course is community building. So work to create a safe space, a safe environment, atmosphere where students feel comfortable asking questions that some may deem, you know, let's say as common sense, right? And also, again, walking them through anything I expect them to do, I always walk them through it or will show them first. I've kind of learned in the past from experience not to assume. I also will share with you guys as well a survey that I give students on day one, where I kind of ask about their computer literacy, literacy skills. I ask them certain things just to see where they fall. So I'll share that as well on the Brightspace master ARC link, and I'll kind of walk us through that before we get out today.
And continuous with what Sarah Meyer has written, Mitch writes, on that note, teach students how to access your feedback. I usually have a student demonstrate it since their view is different than the instructor's view.
That's a very good point, Mitchell. I tend, I'll say I noticed this a few semesters, that I would give feedback on papers, and when, give students the opportunity to revise, I would wonder why the revisions were minimal. I would wonder why the revisions weren't substantial, especially, or in some cases didn't target my feedback. And a lot of times they did not know where to go to find the feedback, especially electronically. They perhaps in some cases may be unsure of where exactly the feedback may be referring. So yeah, I think that's also a good idea with the feedback as well after you have your first paper assignment.
Yeah, my students were reading the feedback in the feedback box, which was very minimal, and missing the extensive feedback that I spent like an hour on in the document itself,
Right.
which was great. Very disappointing.
Yeah, that's a good point, Mitchell. So making sure we activate that, just stay mindful, keep at the front of your mind that, not to assume anything. Don't assume anyone knows anything. And don't assume that if you ask that they will tell you. Sometimes I will ask the question, is there someone who needs help? Is there someone who perhaps may need a little more time with this? They're not yet comfortable speaking up, advocating for themselves. Those are things that I teach as well. So just kind of keep those things in mind. All right.
I know one thing that I like to use is very similar to what you said, Aletha, is the think talk. You're letting them know what you're thinking as you're responding to even questions or to what you're reading, what's going on in your head. And that models for them, you know, that we're thinking the whole while that we're working on this and we're focused. So I think that's very similar to what you said about modeling, but certainly letting them know what's going on in your head as you're going through the process.
Exactly. You know, because that is a part that we're missing out on with the lack of face-to-face. A lot of times when a student was struggling with an assignment or struggling, let's say in their reading, I could see the wrinkled brows, you know, I could kind of see the slumped shoulders. I could see the body language that would prompt me to go and check on that student, kind of see if they needed help with anything. I don't really get that view of the classroom anymore. So, I do tend to not just assume that everyone is okay. Sometimes I will, you know, do the modeling out loud. That's a good idea, Yvonne. But kind of checking in, this again, reinforcing the support, you know, that you're there to help if they have any questions. Sometimes I don't wait on them to reach out to me. I reach out to them as well. So it takes that a level of proactiveness with the English 96 course that you do not see in some cases in your 101s or your 102s. So just to be mindful of that. All right, this actually had a video in it. It's a little bit, I may have a technical issue here, but I did include the link for the video here. So where we were just talking about scaffold learning, right? Giving the instruction to students in, you know, incremental assignments. The ARC handbook describes this as low stakes and high stakes assignments, right? So they say that in the ARC course, students should have several low stakes assignments before they complete a, let's say, a paper or what's considered a high stakes assignment or assessment. So we should walk them to or walk them up to any final or major assignments. Okay, so we don't, for instance, we wouldn't want to have them read and then complete one assignment and then the next assignment is now you write a paper. We kind of want to reinforce again that support by breaking the learning down into bits. So some low stakes activities that help me to reinforce learning that I wanted to share with you guys is journal writing, summary writing, and what helps me to do this online is use of the online journal app Penzu. Have you guys heard of Penzu before? Okay,
No.
I have the link here. I want to kind of show you, but I'm scared to look to jot out of to kind of move screens. Penzu, let me give you just a quick, like a brief synopsis on it. It is a free app. In the video that you guys will get from me, I have this link here, which is an introduction. I normally play this link for my students. I post it in Brightspace. After we kind of go through the journal activity, it teaches them how to upload the app, how to use the app, even though we go through it in real time in the class. I think you guys will find Penzu as a tool for remote learning very useful.
Aletha, just so you know, I put a link to the YouTube video in the chat, also a link to the web page for Penzu, penzu.com in the chat, if anyone's interested.
Awesome. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, it definitely helped me. And even though it's referred to as an app for journal writing, I use it for other assignments. I also use it if I want them to write a summary, anything that they can access electronically and submit very easily. I normally get it in real time via email. I'm able to respond, give feedback, and send that back to the student. So it's very user-friendly, and it really did help reinforce learning in my class. What else did I want to share with you guys in terms of the online? I'm sorry, you guys, look, I'm messing with my, but if you guys have any tips that you use in terms of online journal writing, summary writing, I'll be honest, as we made the move from face-to-face to remote, some of these things I abandoned, okay? If it created a problem or a disconnect for my students, I sometimes was putting it to the side. But the reason this is a refresher series or workshop is because it is really important in terms of, some of these assignments are really important in terms of helping students to meet those outcomes. So we're just looking for ways of implementing them for the electronic, the remote learning classroom. So journal writing, that's mentioned in the handbook. Summary writing is one of the requirements, one of the learning requirements for the CRT, and one of the learning requirements for, of course, that portfolio. So I start early with teaching it. Almost every reading assignment will require a low stakes summary writing assignment. And again, for many reasons, but by breaking it up, scaffolding the learning, it allows me to really emphasize it for my students and make sure that they are getting it, right? If I notice anything wrong with those low stakes assignment, it signals to me, let me take a little bit more time on this assignment. Let me reach out to this student to make sure that, the learning has taken place. Let's go back here. So principle number 3 of the guiding principles, developing readers and writers also benefit from instruction that is well supported and active. So I've kind of gone into our role as resource and support for our students, but that support, our instruction needs to also be well supportive, active, and consistent. So there's many ways that we can actively support our students in the course. And one way is to make sure we have timely feedback, okay? Kind of letting students know what they need to work on or what may need to be addressed in a timely fashion. So support from the course helps to build skills, confidence, and academic voice. What you will find, one of the major hurdles for the ARC student is their confidence. A lot of them come into the class believing already that they're horrible readers or horrible writers. So we have that to kind of contend with. They come already, especially those who've had bad experiences in the classroom, they come already apprehensive about speaking up and really sharing any concern. So once they recognize us as, a trustworthy support in the class, right? It will encourage them, to become more active, to become more engaged. It also incorporate a habit of quick feedback, clear rubrics, and assignment sheets that communicate the assignment expectation. I know you guys have been taking workshops all week. Hopefully we've had some Brightspace workshops in there. Brightspace is very useful in terms of giving quick feedback, you sharing with your students clear rubrics so they can see how they earned the scores that they earned, what areas they may need to address, or areas of weakness, but kind of making them aware of that. But not only making them aware of that, pointing them in the direction of where they can get help with that. So in some cases, maybe you may need them to stay after class, spend a little bit more time with you. In other cases, they may need to make sure they're visiting, the academic support center, the virtual tutoring. So what I do to encourage that, a lot of times I build the support into my course design. So I'll make tutor visits a part of a particular assignment. The way you will receive credit for this assignment is it must, you had to at least spend 30 minutes with the tutor or an hour with the tutor. So find ways that you can build support into your course design that can help establish that habit with the student. We're trying to get them college level ready, and the college level students know when they need help to go out and seek it. So we want to kind of, again, with training wheels, we are guiding students again, to college level. So the way we can help with that is to kind of be mindful of building in the supports. We can always tell them to go to tutor, but the incentive, putting it into an assignment, something attached to points, helps to motivate. I want to say in December, you guys may have received an email both from Sarah, your coordinator, and Morgan, your Dev Ed coordinator, about the recently new tutoring model that we have at Malcolm X. In that email, it had a form where you guys could contact academic support to request a tutor. If you missed that, if you didn't have an opportunity to do that, you can still request help. But make sure you're reaching out again to either your coordinator, your Dev Ed coordinator, or to the academic support, okay? I tell my students that your tuition pays for this support. You really wanna make sure you are taking advantage of it. I also, again, through the process of modeling, like we've talked about, I will walk them through the steps of how to access. So sometimes I walk them through Navigate. I walk them through the prepare page that I add to my syllabus. The student support page where they can find all of their student needs. So again, showing them where to find that information and making sure that they utilize it.
All right. Well, okay, Morgan wrote something about me, so I definitely want to read this out loud. I love being acknowledged. Joseph is the academic, don't know if that was mentioned, and could help with requesting an embedded tutor. Yes, thank you, Morgan, thank you. But I also would like to say that the director of academic support services made available to us the spring 2021 academic support embedded tutor request form. Now, I emailed that to the full-timers, and I didn't mean to neglect our adjunct lecturers. I'm happy to send that to you if you would like. I'm going to put my email in the chat. And Steve, I deserve to be laughed at. So there it is. There you go. There it is. So feel free to email me. I'll send you the embedded tutoring request form. If you don't mind me saying a few words about this, Aletha,
Sure.
is it all right? So
Yes,
I
absolutely.
actually attended an academic support services meeting yesterday evening. And I made the point, and I'm just going to reverberate that point here, which is that embedded tutoring is sine qua non. It's an absolutely necessary condition, because if you have an embedded tutor in a classroom, this, as it were, demonstrates the benefits of embedded tutoring. And it does prompt students to seek out embedded tutoring outside of the classroom. I've seen it. I saw it when I was Morgan's embedded tutor, for example, and Greg's embedded tutor intermittently. So embedded tutoring is not just important for what the embedded tutor does within the classroom, but that embedded tutor serves as a kind of model, an inspirational model for students, because they witness how beneficial tutoring is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Where Joseph stated, I personally wish it was required. I know with the Dev Ed, kind of working in Dev Ed committee, it was requested that the embedded tutors are a requirement for the English 96 class, especially with the remote learning class, because sometimes we will miss the opportunity to identify a student who's in need. But when I kind of offer myself along with the embedded tutor, I find that students do tend to go to the embedded tutor a bit more. A lot of times I work them into my class during revision process in the past. Look, I know I have Yvonne in here. She was a great embedded tutor for me in the past. And it was almost a team environment where with her being in the class, she knew exactly what the assignment required. She knew exactly what the instructor expected. So when she would tutor the student, she tutored them with that unique knowledge, that could kind of help them in the class. So I cannot say enough about embedded tutors. But if you do not have one, if you didn't get a chance to get one, that's okay. You can again reach out to Joseph and still bring in a tutor into the classroom. Some of you,
and I will, I'm sorry, I will follow up persistently. Now, well, let me just leave it at that. I will follow up persistently. Yeah.
And Alita, I learned so much from you. I felt like one of the students. I said, well, they are so lucky. Had she been my teacher, but appreciated that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I know that partnership is important. Students benefit from it. So we'll talk a little bit more about the embedded tutors. Make sure you guys are reaching out to our coordinators on that. Another principle that I wanted to emphasize was principle 4. Critical thinking should be embedded in all course assignments and activities, even those assignments, you know, where we talked about with strategy. Sometimes where I tell students to, let's say, summarize or identify the author's main idea. I will normally ask a critical thinking question along with that. Normally my post-reading questions dive a little bit more into critical thinking, but there should be a component of critical thinking, critical analysis in every assignment. It should be embedded in the course. We want students to think about the moves that they're making, not just mechanically do them. It says critical thinking is essential to becoming a strong reader, writer, student, and citizen. Ways to incorporate this into the remote learning classroom is to utilize assignments like discussion board forums, where a lot of times I ask questions, normally connection questions. How does the student connect with the text? What does it remind them of? Things like that. And what I find in the discussion boards is through the student feedback, students learn from each other. They find new ways of looking at or approaching information. Sometimes if it comes from their peers. So critical thinking, that particular component, I can really see value of it in discussion boards. I see value of it again in peer reviews. I utilize Padlet.com a lot of times to survey the class, you know, do what Yvonne referred to as think talk. So we're kind of thinking, you know, talking or writing out how they're thinking, how they thought through a particular process. Are any of you guys familiar with Padlet.com? Padlet, ooh, Joseph, type that in.
I'll find it. But could you spell it for me? Because you know the word palette. I'm sorry, this is a bit pedantic, but the word palette could be spelled 3 different ways.
No, it's Padlet. So see it in the thing.
Oh,
it's Padlet.com. Padlet.com.
Okay. Padlets.com.
Mm-hmm. And in utilizing Padlet, it helps me to check the temperature of the room, right? So a lot of times, I don't know if you guys know this, you will see that it takes a while for them to warm up. So sometimes when you are attempting to generate discussion in the class, sometimes you will hear nothing. You will hear crickets, right? And with Padlet, it allows students to, okay, if you don't want to share anything, you know, out loud, it allows them to still share. You still must participate, but you can jot it down. So I normally will set up a question, a critical thinking question, either about the reading or either about a concept that we were introduced to in the class. And then I'll give students a moment to kind of reflect on that question. And with Padlet, I can share my screen with everyone else so they can see what everybody is writing. They can see everyone's responses. And it's really useful for me in kind of bringing in those silent voices. Those you'll see, you'll have some students who you will never hear their voice, right?
So I'm sorry to interject, Aletha. So Mitch writes, he explains what this is about as well as you have. He writes, Padlet is basically an electronic whiteboard. You send the link in the chat and they type responses on the board. And now I haven't watched this video, but I put a YouTube video in the chat in which a very nice appearing person is giving an instructional video on how to use Padlet. Again, I haven't seen the video, so maybe this person isn't nice, but the person seemed nice.
No, but Padlet is very useful, and especially where you will have days where students will not talk. And I've done everything. I feel like I've tried everything to get them to speak up. Normally once they feel comfortable. So normally it's something we kind of have to work up to if they see any value in it, you know, but Padlet definitely helps me. And what I'm able to do with Padlet is I'm able to call that student's name out, identify their particular thought, you know, so they are kind of getting credit for that particular thought. And then every other student in the class has an opportunity to, you know, add to it. So it helps again with that critical thinking component. Another exercise or activity that I utilize is connection papers. A lot of times with that SQ3R reading model that I utilize, connecting to what you read is a really large component. So the critical thinking is activated when I ask students to, you know, in what ways did the reading, you know, remind you of an event or experience you yourself, you know? So I ask them things like that to kind of activate critical thinking. We've mentioned modeling. I want to reiterate that modeling is very important. It's a very important strategy that the art course depends on. Modeling is the process of walking students through the assignment, exhibiting how or why it is useful. So even with annotation, before I give students the expectation of annotating every time we, you know, they encounter a reading assignment, first time they are introduced to it, I model it for them. I show them normally how annotation, you know, the triggers, the mental triggers that can, you know, determine what they jot down in the margins or what they highlight or underline. We roll out a process that the class adheres to, but I always model it first. Normally with papers, I show samples. So some way of giving them an idea of that expectation before setting them loose with it. What you will find if you do that is that many students will say, well, I didn't understand. I wasn't sure of what to do. So what I do to eliminate that is first I show them, then I normally record the modeling session, you know, share it with them again so they have it to kind of go back to. But it is the process of modeling that is a very important component in the art course. We are teaching them how to operate as college level thinkers and students. So they normally have to see that. All right. All right. So principle number 5. And how am I doing on time, Joseph?
It's 3:21 p.m.
All right. So the use of college level authentic academic texts work to engage learners. So we do have a text for the art course, that ARC reader. But again, you guys know you have autonomy. So I know some instructors are utilizing perhaps maybe some readings from Common Core. Wait, no, that's not the name. What is the name of that site that a lot of us use?
Common Lit.
Common Lit, yes, thank you. Sorry about that. So Common Lit. I know sometimes I use pbs.org or New York Times, but I always seek out college level text. I'm very intentional about the reading shouldn't be too easy for the students. We want to engage them, but again, the goal is to pull them to, you know, college level. So the use of college level authentic academic texts is desirable for the art course. You want to prepare them for what they will encounter in their other courses. So college level texts work to prepare students for the assignments that they will encounter in other courses and discipline. So here you guys see the ARC reader. It's compiled a collection of college level text. Also what you'll see in the reader is that the texts are organized according to theme. So that thematic approach is really important as well. Sustained reading of multiple texts on one theme helps to build knowledge, and it helps to kind of make those critical thinking connections. So a lot of times, for example, let's say my unit 1. So I kind of break down my course calendar into units, all following a thematic approach. So let's say the unit 1, the theme is education and motivation. So the reading under that particular theme all deal with education, right? How a student approaches their education, we normally do fixed versus growth mindset, right? You know, those things about motivation. And from those multiple texts, it normally culminates in a high stakes assignment that allows them to make the necessary connections, that really kind of helps solidify critical thinking, you know. But you kind of don't want to, if you can avoid it, kind of giving them random text. Like try to, if you can, have targeted thematic leaning text, with the students making connections in their reading. We're just sharpening their reading skills. So the thematic approach helps with that. College level text. Another good thing that I like about the college level text, they give students something to model. We normally know good readers are good writers. So in the reading process, I normally point out to students the writing elements that are taking place here. So while I'm teaching writing as well through reading, I'll say, you know, so here, you know, we see the author's introduction. So we know an introduction is used to present background information. So I'm teaching it that way. They can see how the writing is organized, how it's formatted. And with, again, the college level text, since we want them to be college level writers, I point out the moves that are made in the text. We kind of, when I'm teaching them reading strategies about how to locate the main idea, I tell them, just like writing an essay, you normally introduce that idea in your introduction, so maybe early on in the text, and it's normally reiterated in the conclusion towards the end of the text. So pointing to that as readers is also something that they can be mindful of as writers, you know, with the instruction they get there as well. So we try to give those college level texts, and so we can help students make those connections. What I didn't do or didn't point to in that last slide that I really want to make sure I reiterate, on our SharePoint site, there are samples of what a thematic lesson plan would look like. So at the end of my presentation, I've included links. So I'll point that out to you, but I just wanted to pause for a second since we're talking about thematic approach. If you're unsure of what that looks like or how to execute it in the art class, we have a model. We have kind of a sample of a thematic outline for assignments and for a course. So I've linked that in. All right, principle number 6, again, from our guiding principles for the class, sustained reading of multiple texts on one theme helps students build background knowledge. So this again just reiterates when reading college level texts, it's more useful if you adhere to a thematic approach. That helps students to kind of build background knowledge. They can activate what they read or learned in another text, right? And use that, you know, to kind of synthesize their learning. So those are skills that are specifically pointed out in the outcomes for the course. All right, so yes, so I just talked about the themed instruction and assignments. I will be sharing this presentation with you all. So this particular link will take you to our SharePoint ARC documents, and you can look at a course outline of a thematic approach, how it takes several reading assignments and attaches to it low stakes and high stakes assignments. All right, did we have anything come in, Joseph?
No, not yet, not yet.
All right, let me keep going.
Is that, oh, okay, I was going to type.
Go back, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah,
Joe.
no. Is it ccc.edu? I'm not correcting you, I just don't know if.
Yeah, that's 3C, CCC. No, it's not a dot, it's edu.
So there's no dot after CCC?
There's no dot. Yeah, like I copied this from the link from SharePoint. So you know when you pull it.
Okay, no, it's okay. Wasn't correcting you, I just never saw it that way.
Yeah. All right, so let me go on. So again, principles 6 and 7, they somewhat overlap. They're college text plus utilizing thematic approach. So moving on to principle 7, you want to allow ample time for each reading, assignment, and activity. Now, this is important because many of us will approach our courses differently. We have the option of synchronous, asynchronous. We now know that 50% of our class needs to be synchronous. Look, right, Morgan? Am I right with that? believe that.
Sorry, I just saw the impeachment passed and lost attention for a second.
I
So,
know, right? It's all very,
yes. So at minimum, and I can explain this a little bit because it can be a little confusing. We require that you're meeting with the whole class or an attempted version of the whole class at 50% of the time, and that the other 50% of the time could be spent in group tutoring, individual one-on-one, or asynchronous work, whatever it makes sense, because 6 hours of lecturing to blank screens doesn't work.
yes. And that can be very daunting for students as well. So what I like about that requirement is the 50% needs to be synchronous, because if we are really stressing modeling the learning or kind of modeling certain concepts, before you give students, let's say a writing assignment or again, a reading assignment, during that synchronous meeting, you want to allow ample time either for reading, for them to, if not start the assignment, perhaps ask questions about it before you let them loose on an asynchronous day. So again, allow ample time for each reading assignment and activity. One thing we know about the art course, it really was not designed for online learning. So we're kind of making the best in terms of, shifting to the remote learning, but you do need to visually check in on your students. You do need to make yourself available, not just to model, but also in class time work, because if they're working on their own and they have a question, sometimes they'll just stop, they'll just give up. But with the kind of guided, or shall I say synchronous class meeting, you again are their real-time support. So they get to have their questions answered. Again, learning is emphasized, that confidence is kind of built in reaching out and getting positive results. But we know that the art course itself, most work should be done in class. You guys will see after 2 hours and 40 minutes of instruction, to then send them out with homework or large assignments. It's best maybe to start it in the class, and if you wanted to assign it for homework, for them to finish, but allow some time, ample time in class for them to get some work done, where you can kind of monitor breakout rooms in order to operate as a support, as a resource for them. All right. Oh, and you can start too, just with that expectation of 50% synchronous. Consider with that intentional planning, consider now how much time you'll set aside, how much class time you'll set aside to complete reading or writing assignments. Some of your students may have plans, right? The IU plans, I think I'm saying that right, where some of them will require or mandate that they have additional reading time or additional time for completing assignments. So try to, stay mindful of that anytime you are giving assignments, both reading and writing. All right, so we're getting through this pretty quick. The last principle outlined in the guiding principles is text-based academic writing is essential for success in college courses. So this I I felt that this was targeted at me specifically because I got a little carried away last semester with poetry. So a lot of our reading, a lot of some of the response papers that students were writing was in response to poetry, right? We were kind of learning more about, literary devices and things like that. But however, it was a little bit tone deaf in the importance of text-based academic writing, right? Again, stronger readers are better writers. And if I want them to write a particular way or again, to become stronger writers, I need to be putting what that looks like in front of them. So text-based academic writing is really important because especially also with our portfolios where there's a requirement that the writing is based on the reading. And also when we give writing assignments based on actual reading text, again, we solidify or we tend to emphasize critical thinking, metacognition, right? Those outcomes that are targeted for this class. Let's look at a couple of ideas around this. So I know that with the course, a lot of times early on, we start with narration, right? You know, what do you expect to get out of the class? What was a, you know, New Year's resolution that you had? That type of writing is awesome. You know, I say for just getting students practice with writing, maybe journal writing, maybe something like that. But the purpose should be for them to produce writing that communicates their understanding of a text, right? That really is that integration of reading and writing, making sure their writing reflects what they've read. So here it says narration, reflection. It is an important part of the course. So students, again, can practice this writing, but for the class itself, you want to make sure that students are writing in response to reading or in response to a particular theme covered in their reading. The reflective essay is important. It's one of the final essays that students will write in the class. It connects with the metacognition outcome outlined for the course, but I did want to just give you guys a heads up on this. One of the final papers is the reflective essay. It is included in the final e-portfolio for the art course. And that question will ask students to reflect back on the learning that has taken place in the class. So the prompt itself asks students, in what ways have you grown and developed or improved as a reader, writer, and critical thinker, right? So at the end of the semester, students must produce this 5-paragraph essay where they reflect on their learning. So I do try to prepare them for this assignment, normally by giving my reflective writing in my journal assignments. So you do want to prepare them for that. So it's okay to bring that component in, that narration, reflective component in, because they do have to execute that at the end of the semester. But most of the writing done in class and what you will include in your portfolio should be text-based. Okay. So I kind of wanted to leave whatever time we had left to activity sharing. So what I wanted to really do with this session was to give faculty a place where they can go to share ideas or to, you know, kind of see what other instructors are doing in their classroom. So I've included here a link to the SharePoint folder where we've started kind of these activity sharing. So what I may do for vocabulary building, what activities or homework assignments, I've dropped a few here. Community building activities, I've dropped a few in this folder. Electronic activities. I've also included things that help with book club. Is there anyone who is planning to execute a book club?
I'm sorry, Morgan and Rachel are, if I may, I received an email the other month. It was actually
Morgan,
that's
a different, that's for faculty members.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay. But I'm glad I am actually going to try to write a grant to get the book for all adjuncts too. So hang tight.
Yeah, now with the book club in ARC. So ARC, if you guys, especially with the refresher, I'm more of a traditionalist. So I'm really kind of follow what's outlined in that handbook. So in the handbook, they recommend the use of a book club, but it's totally optional. It's hard enough remote learning. I tried last semester with the book club, and students, surprisingly, now I could get them to talk in book club where they perhaps may not speak about anything else. They would talk and share out, and really, I could really see them engaged in the content in book club. So I think book club is useful because it introduced reading for enjoyment, right? And not reading just, you know, to complete an assignment. It also allows me to introduce literary, you know, devices, you know, to my students. So we talk about things like imagery, metaphor, you know, those types of things It allows me to bring that into the discussion. There is a, there's a thematic unit in the ARC textbook on language. So I really open up the book club. We really dive into it when we're kind of dissecting the language of our novels or whatever literature that we're reading. But is anybody planning on doing a book club this semester? And I'm asking because I may want to get with you to kind of bounce ideas or share ideas. Maybe we can kind of support each other, share assignments or things like that. So if you are, feel free to reach out to me. Normally I give, and make sure you guys are double checking your book adoptions too. Normally the book club books are automatically included in book adoptions. So if you don't want your students to, if you don't plan on having a book club, if you don't want them to buy or purchase any of those books that show up as optional, make sure you kind of let them know that. Sometimes students get confused as to, do I need to buy all of these books? So if you're not doing a book club, maybe send a heads up in Brightspace. I normally tell my students, here are the books specifically you want to make sure you get. These are optional, or don't worry about getting these. But I am doing a book club. I'm opting for 2 books. Normally I would do several, 3 or 4, to give students a variety and to give them options. So I'm only doing 2 this semester.
Could you tell us what they are, Aletha? I'm actually curious.
Yeah, I'm doing Sula by Toni Morrison and Enrique's Journey.
All right.
I forget the author's name off the top of my head.
I'll look it up.
Enrique's Journey, Sula. In the past, I've done Lord of the Flies and a few other old school books, right?
Sonia Nazario.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. When I tell you students open up with that text, I don't know what it is about Enrique's Journey, perhaps maybe because he is relaying a unique personal story of, his experience in migrating to America, to the United States. A lot of the students connect with it. Those who may not have a lot of knowledge about that process, they learn about it. So it really does help to build like citizenship, empathy. I found it useful, and also especially in terms of engaging. So book clubs, another thing that you guys could do as well. Sometimes I incorporate reading assignments with journals. So if you don't plan on doing a book club, sometimes I give short stories as a homework assignment, and then a journal exercise where they have an opportunity to now discuss what they took away from that reading. So there's ways, if you're not doing a book club, we can still get them to read for enjoyment. But from the discussion or from the presentation, are there any assignments or activities you guys have found very useful in the remote learning classroom that you'd like to share?
Hey, Aletha,
Yes.
before you go into activity sharing, because I have to make sure kiddos did not just go on screens right after school ended. Do you want me to talk real fast about how to use the diagnostic to possibly, I didn't want to interrupt, and I know we're still working on it, but we have so many folks here that would be affected by that.
Yes.
So I'll talk real briefly. Aletha mentioned that there's a diagnostic at the beginning of every class. This is true for 101097 as well. So for those of you who aren't yet teaching ARC, but teaching 101097, same rule applies. We've always given a diagnostic. The difference this year, this semester, and this is actually was true last semester too, it's just that I couldn't get my act together enough to come up with a process. So I volunteered to take it on as Dev Ed coordinator. Give that diagnostic day one. If you can give it day one and you can review them pretty immediately, like within the next 24 hours, if there is a student that quite clearly has been misplaced for whatever reason, it may not be the placement test, it could be a myriad of reasons why they're in that class. We now have the capability to move them to another level at their okay. Like we're not doing it without the student saying we're good with that, but you have to let us know sort of immediately. And with Aletha's permission, I volunteer to collect that information and hand it to the chairs to make it a little easier, who then work with the advising group. Does anybody, I'll write an email to confirm all this. Does anybody have questions about that at all? Because that's a big change. Other, like, I don't know, Jason, I know you teach at another campus. Other campuses have been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Some of them very well. Some of them it's been a little, like Kennedy King has had an awesome sort of way of doing this. And so we're trying to model off of them. But basically, if you come across a student and their diagnostic shows this student should not be in ARC, this student should be in 101097, we can fix that.
Yes. Yep. And the way you'll normally be able to tell that, if they have, like, let's say, more in-depth discussion, right? I also look at length. I look at, did they correctly identify the main idea? Are they utilizing some type of quoting, proper quoting or citation? You can tell when a student is operating at a higher level in their writing. So really make sure, again, you guys are reviewing your diagnostics as soon as you can. It really sometimes, it's painful that a student who may be misplaced for whatever reason isn't caught, right? They kind of slip through these cracks. So this is just kind of a way to, safeguard against that. And now that we have the capability to move them forward, if you let us know as soon as possible, then that student has a better chance of getting into another course.
There is a timeline. It's basically within the week. So we kind of need to know as soon as possible. And it's also true for 101097. So if you find a student who's like, oh, they really don't need this support class, they're college level ready, we can do that too. Also true for FS. So anything below 101 that can be remedied for the student. And Adrian, I know, is asking if there's diagnostics available. I know Mitch put them up already for 101 and 101097. Can't speak to ARC.
Yeah, now in ARC, in the folders, the diagnostics are always housed in the documents folder. So there are a few there. Now I may need to talk with Sarah about, do we want to add anything new? Do we want to do anything new? But there are previous diagnostics there. I know we piloted a diagnostic last semester. Mitch, did you pilot that electronic diagnostic that we got from, I believe that was from Ayana at Truman, right?
He had to leave a little early, but I know that Greg is piloting it this semester.
Okay, so we'll wait on that. All right. Here's what I'll do, Adrian. I'll check with Sarah to see if perhaps we want to add something new, perhaps maybe a streamlined expectation rather than having you guys just select one that's there. But the diagnostic should be a reading and writing diagnostic. So they are reading a text. I think the one that we have in the folder, the ARC folder, is the Jason Oda text, the misspelling the word of. So it has that actual text, and then it has the diagnostic question asking what is the author's main idea. So even though we are assessing writing, the student's ability or inability to identify the correct main idea signals issues with, issues in the reading. I know we are working on, I'm sorry, go ahead, Joe.
No, please finish your point, please.
I was gonna say, I know we're working on streamlining the diagnostic that helps to target specific things about the reading, right? Inferences and things like that. But we'll get that out to you guys as soon as we can. Again, it's being piloted. But for now, I'll follow up with you guys. I'll see if we can add just a simple go-to diagnostic, an updated one that you guys can use. But yeah, we do have them, Adrian, in the folder.
Okay. So Victoria writes in the chat, she's requesting CRT information. She asks, do we still give a practice CRT at the midterm and the real one at the end of the semester? And I believe Sarah responds to that. So Sarah, our coordinator, writes, Victoria, I will send out an email this semester's ARC instructor meeting schedule in the next few days. But yes, we still give practice CRTs at midterm. Instructors have autonomy to decide which tests they use for this, and you can use the copies in the SharePoint if you like. Now, then Morgan, this is on a different subject. Morgan writes, if anyone comes across a student that they think may need to move, but aren't sure, You can lean on Sarah for ARC 096, Mitch 10197, or the chair/adjunct coordinator, or me, Morgan. And lastly, Adrienne asks, and I don't really know the answer to this question.
Yeah, now with
Adrienne
the
asks,
theme, yes,
Oh,
I'm sorry, Joseph.
No.
So I see this one where it says, what is our theme?
Yes.
Now, when you say what is our theme, do you mean like what is the SLO focus this semester? Okay, yeah, that is organization and development. And I think, I'm not sure if Mitchell sent that out yet, but I think he did. Yeah. So yeah, the focus is organization and development. All right, good.
I think he's uploaded everything, but I think then he's going to send out an email that sort of explains everything, but it's all up there already.
Okay. All right. So yeah, so with activity sharing and ideas, and we have just a couple of minutes. What did you got? Oh no, we're a little bit over. Well, before we go, did anybody have anything that worked really well for them? Any app, any online tool that you found worked especially well with the art course? See something.
Sarah writes, I find students really respond to Kahoot. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they always get excited when, we're doing a Kahoot activity. So I agree with that. That helps with engagement. And then the constant, what I do sometimes is a reinforce of praise. But yeah, that allows me to really kind of see how students are operating individually. Look, did we get something else, Joseph?
Yeah, and Morgan writes that she has to go. Thank you all. Good luck all. If you are teaching a DevEd course, ARC or 097, come to the Grammarly session. I believe, Morgan, that's 1 p.m. tomorrow, Thursday. Is that correct?
Oh, you're muted,
Yes.
Morgan.
Yep. I sent an invite, and that could be another tool that we, I'll talk to you guys about it tomorrow, but that could be an additional tool. Yes. Because it'll be without ads and all that jazz. So. And
as you write, since all of the students will get to have it. So yes. This is a wonderful gift.
Yes, it's all the students right now. I think, and I can work with Aletha. We only have enough licenses for the DevEd. And then once we hand out all of those, then maybe we can find some 101s in higher need or something of them. But I want to make sure all the DevEd classes get them first, and then we'll see how many licenses we have left over.
Great.
All right, awesome. And one more thing before we go, just a quick tip that I wanted to share was really being intentional in your planning. ARC isn't really like a fly by the seat of your pants class. It really, in order to be executed well, the planning works. And I don't know if any of us, I think most of us have taken the Brightspace training. And I find modules, checklists, all of these things help me to really engage students, for them to know where they are, what assignments that they may have to complete, what assignments may still be lingering, and what assignments are complete. Having it all in one stop shop for students, I found it to be very useful. So I utilize Brightspace, and I'm going to, if I can, just share my page with you guys. And after I share this, we're out of here. But I just want to kind of show you what it looks like. And I know some of you are familiar with the module setup. You may already be using it. For those who may not be familiar, I just kind of want to show what it looks like. But I kind of break it down in a weekly module. Look, I may have too many things running at one time on my little slow computer, but let me, organization of assignments, organization of the materials on the Brightspace page is very important. The students, my students anyway, my experience, they tend to get flustered when they can't find things, when they don't know how to turn things in, where they should turn it in to. Anything that I post on Brightspace, a lot of times I assume that they see it, but I've learned that it's a labyrinth for them on their end. Sometimes they don't see everything. So I attempt to utilize content, and I attempt to utilize modules as kind of keeping all of the assignments, the documents organized. So this is an example of my spring course, and I just want to show really quickly this module design. And this was my first semester trying it. So it's kind of hit or miss. But you kind of see how I set it up in week modules. So each module or each week, I include all of the reading for that week. I include all of the assignments for that week. Also include the assignment exercises that will walk them through how to submit it. I included all in the module rather than uploading it little by little. With them having a one-stop, little module to get everything, I then include a checklist. So the checklist keeps the assignments organized for the students. Once they complete a particular assignment, it checks it off for them, as you guys kind of see here. And it also contacts them or sends reminders about what may be missing, through the intelligent agents. So I find Brightspace modules very useful in organizing my class, making it easy for students to have one space to go and get reading information, documents for assignments, handouts, and that is also attached to a calendar. So just to prepare them for the course, the expectation, by executing the modules every week is consistent. They have that safety in that every assignment, is executed the same way. They know where to go to find it and what to do. So that consistency, that ease by which the use of modules, it really does help the students better navigate the remote classroom. So I just want to throw that out there. You guys will see week 1, week 2, I kind of named them. It also focuses on my themes. So education and motivation, language and identity, those types of things. But all of the work for that week is housed in one spot. All right, so did you guys have any questions? I've kept you over and that was not my intention at all. The good thing is I've recorded the meeting, everything here. You guys will have it at your disposal. I think I saw somebody in the email ask me to send the link for that SharePoint. I'll do that now. I think that was you, Jermaine. I'll add that now. Oh, Jason, sorry, it's the J's. But do you guys have any questions for me before I let us go?
No, but our coordinator for ARC has something to tell the group.
Okay.
If it's all right, I'll recite it.
Absolutely.
So Sarah writes, I got to run, everyone. But if you have any questions or concerns or anything, feel free to shoot me an email. So that is, it's in the chat, but it's SMEYER6, the number 6, as an integer, not written out, at ccc.edu. You will hear from me in the next few days also in a group email.
Yes, I'm actually glad she left us with that, because
Yeah.
all of what we talked about, if it seems a little bit daunting, you will have meetings periodically throughout the semester. So Sarah will touch base with you about the midterm CRT expectation. She'll touch base with you about the portfolio expectation. So good, you guys know that's your coordinator. That's where you'll get most of your information. All right, let me put this in chat real quick so you can copy this, Jason. And anyone else, this is the activity sharing. Feel free to add to this. With us being in remote learning, a lot of times we're isolated as well. And I would love to know what you guys are using in your classes that can not only help me, but help others as well. So the link I shared is activity sharing folder in our SharePoint. So you guys will see activities as well as you can share some there. All right. I'm long-winded. If you guys have if you have a question, stay after. Anyone who doesn't, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Look, I'll see you guys this week. Look, see you guys Friday at the department meeting.
You've got it. Take care.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.
I'll stay after if you have any questions.
I'm Sorry, I totally misunderstood this meeting. I thought ARC was Academic Resource Center, but I
Oh,
stuck around because it was so interesting. So I hope you don't mind.
no, I don't, Bobby. I'm glad. Okay, okay, good. So you thought this was academic oh, I see.
At Harold Washington, we call ARC Academic Resource Center. So my acronyms kind of all jumble. But thank you. I mean, I hope I didn't make anyone feel uncomfortable or anything, but I really got a lot out of it because there are some crossover. I do journaling in my class. I do writing, you know.
Good, good. No, I'm glad you stayed, Bobby. No need to apologize at all. It was good having you.
Thank you.
All right, have a good one.
You too. Bye.
Bye.